All right, good evening or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. It's time for Game Dev Coaching Office Hours. I'm Keith, and thanks for tuning in. Last week, I tested the equipment, made sure the microphone, camera, and everything were working, hit record, and about 45 seconds in, my microphone died, which I did not know until I went to upload the video afterwards and noticed it had no audio. So that sucked. Today, I wanted to talk about performance reviews. The reason I mention this is I was having a conversation the other day with a client of mine. So they're a startup and they're probably like 4 or 5 years old now. And when I started working with them, they were about 9 or 10 people, and now they're almost 50. And so they have seen a lot of maturing as far as company practices and these sorts of things. And they are at the point now where they have a significant number of people, and they have to actually figure out what's the most effective way for us to do performance reviews. So I hit them with this question a couple weeks ago. Why do you do performance reviews? They seem to me to be something that every company with a certain level of maturity, certain number of employees maybe, will just say, oh, well, you have to do performance reviews. Everyone has to do performance reviews. Obviously, we'll do performance reviews. Well, why? And the reason, this is basically a homework question that I left with them. I came back a couple weeks later. Okay, what'd you come up with? Well, we decided we're going to keep doing performance reviews, says the client. Oh, okay. Because it's important for the people to get feedback. Okay. I didn't get a chance to challenge the thinking on this, but here's something I've talked about in the past. And it kind of leads up to this whole topic of people getting feedback in performance reviews. I subscribe to the model of 3 tiers, 3 levels of feedback that people should get in the workplace. And this comes from Ken Blanchard, author of The 1 Minute Manager. So going from most informal to most formal, we have daily coaching, which is something good, something bad happens. Within 24 hours, you, the boss, the manager, the lead, talk to the team member that did the thing. And you either tell them, hey, great job on that presentation, or, hey, you could have worded that email better. Whatever the feedback is, right? Point being, you do it ideally face-to-face, but, if you're remote, you're remote. But preferably live, at least. Like, just hitting them with a Slack message, not ideal. And so one-on-one, within 24 hours of the event, and you just give them that little bit of feedback. Hey, I thought that went really well. Hey, I think here's something you can do better next time. Okay, daily coaching. That's the first tier. The second tier, more formal, is one-on-ones. So these should be regular and frequent meetings between the boss and the team member. And we can touch on any number of things. They should not just be a status report. How are your JIRA tasks? But the goal here from the manager's perspective is you want to build rapport with the person. You want a connection. We want to make sure that you, the manager, are not the reason this person wants to quit the company. So in one-on-ones, this is the opportunity for you to talk about company information you want to share. You, as the manager, can request feedback. Hey, how do you think I'm doing as your boss? You can give feedback. Here's something I want you to know that I've seen in the past week or two. The team member can ask you questions, can give feedback. We can talk about development goals, all these kinds of things. So there's a lot of stuff that you can cover in your one-on-ones. And then the third tier, the most formal, third of the three, is the performance review. Okay, so that's a very formalized process. There's probably paperwork involved, a set series of questions, these kinds of things. Okay. My view is this. 3/4 of all the feedback that anybody ever gets from their boss should occur in one-on-ones. This is the venue that should be doing the heavy lifting as far as the two of you communicating. It should not be done in performance reviews because those are so less frequent. In many companies, we're still only doing them once a year. So one-on-ones is where we should be doing all these sorts of things. So in my worldview, the feedback that we think team members should be getting should be occurring every week, every 2 weeks in the one-on-ones with their boss. If that's happening, let's take that as a given. Team members getting continuous feedback from their boss in one-on-ones. If that's happening, why are we doing performance reviews? All of the things that you want to talk about should be discussed every week or two in one-on-ones. So then why do we still do these? Okay, so I feel as though the usefulness of the performance review hinges a lot on whether we're doing regular and frequent, effective one-on-ones. If we aren't, then yeah, there's a good chance meaningful feedback about your performance is only going to happen in a perf review, which sucks because that's, again, what, once a year, twice a year, maybe? That's a terribly slow cadence for telling somebody how they're doing. So I hope to have another discussion with this client about why they're doing performance reviews. The purpose of the performance review, I believe that even if you're doing one-on-ones well, performance reviews still have a place. If for no other reason than look at this from the team member's perspective, why do you even care about a performance review? What does it matter to you? What's most important to you, the team member, that could possibly occur in a perf review that makes you go, oh, well, this was worth my time. This was valuable. You would like to hear maybe you're recognized for contributions. Hey, Keith, here's all the cool stuff you did in the past 6 months. Sure. Okay. We did go over those in my one-on-one, so I know that you're already aware of them, but great. I love to hear that you appreciate the stuff that I do. Okay, sure. After that, after recognizing contributions, why does the team member care? Because this is likely to be the time that I learn, am I going to get more money? Am I getting a raise? Am I getting a promotion? Which probably also comes with a raise. Those are the things that are going to drive 90+% of the value for a team member when it comes to the perf reviews. So making sure we're clear where the team member stands, where they are on the progress bar between what their title says they are now and the next step in their career ladder, that's something that we should cover in a perf review. So there are other things that maybe the company cares about doing here, but from the employee's perspective, that's why a perf review may still matter, even if we're covering all of the feedback stuff in one-on-ones. That doesn't necessarily mean that perf reviews are easy, because they still represent an amount of time. I have to get away from doing my craft to sit down and write a self-review and give that to my boss, and my boss has to take time away from managing the team or whatever to write the manager review, and then we have to have a meeting. All this stuff has to happen. So there's still an investment. It can still be costly in terms of taking people away from work. So Wrapping this all up would be to say, listen, perf reviews still have a place, even if you're doing one-on-ones well. It shouldn't really be about feedback because you're covering that in different venues. It is a way for us to bring some more rigor, some more discipline to when we give promotions, how we give them. So I think there's value there. And it's still really difficult because even if, as a manager, even if I have done all the one-on-ones, so we've had 13 of them, 26 of them since the last performance review, I have all of that data to go off of. It is still going to be something you ask of me in the performance review to basically at some point give my team member a score. You're going to want me to reduce the past 3, 6, 12 months of an employee's career into essentially a number between 1 and 5. Right? Significantly below expectations, significantly above target, somewhere in there. And doing that, taking months of the professional performance of an infinitely nuanced human being and reducing it to a score is hard. So this is still a difficult task. It is one of the 2 hardest things, I think, in all of people operations. Probably harder than creating career ladders, but only slightly harder. And it's for the same reason that you're talking about quantizing an entire career. So really difficult. It does add value, not as much as people think if you're doing your one-on-ones well. So I have a whole discourse around how to do performance reviews well, how to do one-on-ones well, why you need both, and how frequent your performance review should be. All of these kinds of things. And it ties together with what's our methodology around delivering promotions and pay increases. It's all coupled together, and this is stuff that a lot of companies miss. Even established companies, 10, 20, 30 years old, mess this stuff up all the time. And as I've said in the past, one of my greatest sources of inspiration for talking about doing performance management well comes from the incredibly bad example I received as an Activision employee. We had annual reviews, which I've gone on record many times as telling clients, listen, if you only do performance reviews once a year, don't do performance reviews. Certainly not in games, because so much changes over the course of a year that it's a net negative for all the time and energy you put into it and what you get out of it. It's a negative experience for all parties involved for the company. So at any rate, that's what we did as Activision employees. And it's this giant monolithic, I just remember, multiple page document asking a lot of questions that weren't even pertinent to us as game developers because this was coming from corporate HQ. And people would get swamped with these things. I remember one year we had an art manager who was working with one team and then inherited a second one. And so come review time, he had to do something like 28 performance reviews. We didn't see the guy for the entire month of January. All he did was performance reviews. How dumb is that? That's 8% of an employee's year just sucked up doing administrative stuff. That, again, once he did those reviews, they just go in a drawer and nobody looks at them again, ever. Total waste of time. Yeah, so all of that stuff happened to me as an Activision employee, and so that's what I draw upon and tell people, look, if you want to be pointed in a good direction for starters, do the opposite of everything that happened to me while I worked under Activision. Anyway, so yeah, performance reviews still have a place. Not as much of one as you think if you're doing one-on-ones effectively, and you should be. So that's the synopsis on performance reviews. How often should you do them? more often than once a year. And you should absolutely take into account the value that this whole thing brings to the team member. And you're taking game developers away from doing their craft to essentially fill out paperwork. So you want to make that as lightweight as possible. And if you're doing one-on-ones, then it should be like copying and pasting from your notes just to fill out the review forms. So that's the easiest thing. So you want this to be a lightweight process. You want to be coupled with effective one-on-ones so that you can just copy and paste your way through the perf review itself. That's a very just pro forma type of event. And think about the fact that the only real things that add value to the team member here are making it as quick as possible. And if you're telling me where I stand with regards to getting a raise or getting a promotion. So these are the highlights for performance reviews. That's what you should be thinking of. And that's probably about all I have to say about that. So performance reviews, one-on-ones, you should do them. All right. I didn't actually have any other questions come in tonight. I don't see anybody in the chat. So we will leave it at that little soapbox escapade of me talking about how performance reviews and one-on-ones work together. And you can certainly hit me up in other venues if you have any questions. Be sure to check out GameDevCoaching.com. We've got a link to a video series on leadership skills for game devs. And you can sign up for a free intro call if you want to see what it's like to have regular coaching calls with me. That having been said, hope everyone has a great rest of your day.